Welcome back to Katana TCG. In this week's video, we're looking at the utility that Miradon EX brings to the new standard format coming with Scarlet Violet. When it's time to upgrade your TCG accessories, make sure you're checking out inkgaming.com. They have a wide variety of sleeves, dice, deck boxes, and a plethora of things that you can customize like mouse pads, play mats, mat bags, as well as gaming bags. And when you use the code PCSPOD10 at checkout, you can get 10% off your entire order from inkgaming.com. Your game, your style. Miradon EX is a 220 HP lightning type Pokemon. It has a great ability called Tandem Unit, which once during your turn allows you to go into your deck, search for 2 basic lightning Pokemon, put them directly onto your bench, and then your turn ends. And then for 2 lightning and 1 colorless, it does Photon Blaster for 220 damage, and during your next turn, this Pokemon cannot attack. It is weak to fighting with a single retreat cost. Seems pretty mobile, hits like a brick, has a great setup ability, especially if you get it out turn 1, you can really establish a board state very early. Now let's see how we can apply it into decks. So in this deck, you're using Miradon with its Tandem Unit ability to establish your board state. You can get your secondary attackers out in the form of Raichu and Raikou, but you can also put Mareeps down because they are basic lightning Pokemon and really establish a board state, as these are support Pokemon that evolve into Flaffy, which allow you to Dynamotor, which accelerates an energy from the discard pile onto any of your bench Pokemon, but it also evolves into the new Ampharos EX. Ampharos EX is an absolute tank at 330 HP. For 1 lightning energy, it does Electro Ball and it does 60 damage, and for 1 lightning and 2 colorless, you do Lightning Tail for 140 damage. If you discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, it does 100 extra damage, weak to fighting, in a 2 retreat cost. So now this great support Pokemon in the form of Flaffy evolves into a very powerful tertiary attacker in the form of Ampharos EX. So we are using Miradon to establish that board state, get your attackers and support Pokemon out very early. You're using things like the Electricity Generator, which is an absolutely busted card. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, you choose up to 2 lightning energy you find there and accelerate them to your bench lightning Pokemon any way you like, which means you're able to set up great attackers in the form of Raichu, Raikou, or even Miradon itself on your first turn going second if you land the energies plus the hand attachment off of your Electricity Generator. This is an extremely powerful card that's going to give these lightning Pokemon the support that they've needed for so long. We're also using support Pokemon like Radiant Greninja to help us draw through the deck by discarding lightning energy. We're using things like Drapion to be able to help us tilt that Mew matchup slightly in our favor. Obviously the Manaphy comes in very handy, as we don't want to lose our Mareep as fast as we put them down. In this list, we're also featuring the new Beach Court Stadium that gives our basic Pokemon a retreat cost of 1 colorless less. And this stadium is huge in a deck like this because Manaphy, Radiant Greninja, Mareep, Raichu, Raikou, Miradon all have a single retreat cost as is, so we have a ton of mobility in the form of free pivot with all of these Pokemon. And I know in the previous lightning boxes, if you didn't have the air balloon or the scoop up net, promoting the Flaffy to accelerate to your bench Pokemon just became very difficult, where I think the Beach Court Stadium definitely helps us a little bit by giving us that pivot, allowing us to accelerate to the bench attacker as we see fit with Flaffy, and then promoting said attacker because we have free retreat. Now in the last list, we're using Miradon to establish our board state as well as become a primary, if not secondary attacker, because there was so much utility in that deck. Now we divert our eyes over to this list where Miradon is the primary focus of the deck. You're running a high 4 count of the Miradon, and you're also using the Regieleki Vmax to increase the damage output of its Photon Blast attack, which has a base damage of 220, and with 4 Regieleki set up, you can bump that damage output up to a whopping 340 damage, where you're not realistically needing to hit that number consistently ever, but this deck has the potential to do just that. In this list, we're running a high count of Arven as well, because it allows us to go into our deck and grab an item card and a tool card, and when Scarlet Violet becomes a part of our standard format, items and tools will be completely separate from each other. So it's very important for us to be able to search out the necessary item that we need, like an Ultra Ball to establish a board state, or the Electricity Generator to potentially accelerate a bunch of energy into play, but we're also using it to grab things like Force Seal Stone to grab that missing piece that we might need, as well as the EXP share, so that when we have an attacker in the active go down, the bench Pokemon that has EXP share attached to it will be able to accelerate 1 basic energy from the active Pokemon that has been knocked out. We're running a very high count of basic energy to hopefully land a very successful amount of energy drawn off of the electricity generator. And this deck is just so streamlined and so consistent. I really feel like it could potentially see a lot of success in the new standard format. Miradon is so powerful that decks without lightning energy could even benefit from using it as a support piece. Miradon being able to put down 2 Magnemite that evolve into Magnezone, that has the Giga Magnet ability that allows you to look at the top 6 cards of your deck, accelerate any metal energy you find there to your Pokemon however you like, and then shuffle your deck, is great for things like Dialga. So looking at Miradon through a scope, it's very, very powerful in lightning decks. It makes for a great attacker as well as a support piece, but it's not limited to just lightning decks. Miradon looks absolutely cracked. I'm very excited to see how it transitions into the new standard format. Obviously, being a title Pokemon and card and getting like 6 different arts of it in our first set of Scarlet Violet is going to make it accessible as well as heavily played. So make sure you pack your Urshifus. If you enjoyed my content, make sure you like the video, comment below which deck or card you want me to talk about next, and subscribe to my channel. And be sure to check out the PCS podcast every week, where Justin and I dive into all things competitive Pokemon TCG all the time. Deuces.